Hi, my name is Jim Reed. I'm one of the home management instructors for the Training Center for the Blind. Today I'm going to demonstrate to you 3 different ways to cut an onion. One's going to be a basic slice, then a basic dice, and then a more advanced way to get to an even finer and smaller dice. First step is to cut the 2 roots off. I've got the onion so that the roots are running left and right, and they should be even with the ground, so you don't want them crooked, like one pointing up to the sky, the other one going down to the ground. I'm going to take a little bit more off because I don't think I got quite enough off. So one more tiny little slice will do it. I'm going to take the other root off in the same way, so it's running straight to my right, even with the parallel with the ground. Knife goes in just far enough to cut off the root. Remember, you paid for it, so if you throw it away, you just threw away money. Now the next step here is I'm going to set the onion on one of the flat surfaces I just made by cutting off the root, and I'm going to cut straight down the middle. Now that I've got the onion halved, I'm going to peel it. It's just easier to peel it after you cut it. And I'm just taking off a whole layer of onion as if I was peeling an orange. By taking off an edible layer, you waste a little bit of food, but you also guarantee that you've gotten rid of all the skin. So I'm just peeling both of them right now. For this first onion, I'm just going to do a basic slice. So my knife is going to be pointing, there's 2 ways you can think of this. If the roots were still there, they'd be running from my front to my back. My knife is going to be running from my front to my back. Or you can say that the root lines will be running across my body from left to right, and the knife is still going from my front to my back. I'm going to start at one end. My left hand, my not knife hand, is in what the chefs would call a guiding knuckle technique. So basically my fingers are vertical and my knife is just going to slide along the back of my fingers. When I want to move my knife, I actually move my fingers and the knife just kind of goes with it. I'm getting to the end of this onion, it's starting to get a little squirrely, a little unbalanced. So the part that was against the knife, I'm now going to put it on the cutting board. The part that was on the cutting board now goes against the knife. Now I have a much bigger, wider surface that's much more stable, and I can keep doing my cut, and it's going to give me the same shape. That is your half moon style, useful for anything. Now we're going to do a dice using the other half of this onion. First thing we're going to do is just cut it across the equator. So if the roots were the north and south pole, we're going right in the middle of the 2 roots. And if you're thinking in terms of the planet, it would be the equator that I just cut through. Now we do the same exact thing as we just did on the last onion. If the roots were still there, they're running from your front to your back, and the knife is also running from your front to your back. And as you get to the end, it just gets a little squirrely, so just the best you can. And you have a quick and dirty dice. An easy way of transferring material, whether it's from a cutting board to a frying pan or a bowl or whatever, you can use your knife like a spatula. I'm going to turn my knife so it's laying flat with the cutting board, and I'm going to put my hand over the pile of whatever I want to transfer, gently slide my knife up and under, into the bowl it goes. So there's a bowl of sliced onions. I'm going to do the same with these diced onions. Take my knife, slide it under like it's a spatula. Diced onions go into the bowl. And we have a bowl of diced onions. All right, so now I'm going to show you a more advanced way to cut an onion. This next method allows you to get a much finer, much smaller dice than you could with the previous way I showed you. So what I'm going to do is cut off the one of the roots, and I'm going to cut off the one that's not really hard and rough. I'm cutting off the other end. I'm leaving the really hard, rough, nubby thing on there. Same thing as last time. You want the roots running parallel to the ground, left and right. Cut off as little as you can to get rid of the root. Throw the trash in your garbage bowl. Now the next step here is I'm going to cut straight from the ceiling to the floor through this hard nubby root. right down the middle of that root. Now I'm going to peel it, just like I did last time. Get a finger underneath one layer of onion. By doing that, you make sure you get rid of all the skin. All right, so for this method of dicing, we're actually using the root that's remaining to help hold everything together so we don't have to do it with our hands. And because we have that mechanical advantage now, we can get way finer, way smaller than we would in the last demo. So the first cut we're going to do is a horizontal cut where my knife is actually pointing sideways. It's not going from floor to ceiling, it's going along the cutting board. And so I want to find the midpoint as far as the height of this onion, and I want to be right in the middle. So I find where it's about halfway up the height of the onion, and I push the knife in. Got to make sure you keep your knife straight. And a key to this is not destroying the root. If you cut into the root, you've ruined this technique, and you've lost that advantage of holding the root in. I've got my knife about as close as I can get it. I think it's about maybe a 1/4 inch away from the root. So that first cut is done, that horizontal cut is done. The second cut now is going to be starting from the root that is there, cutting strips running away from that root. And what I like to do here is kind of more of a stabbing motion higher up so that I can control where the tip goes in, and then I come down. So these are kind of like little dangling strands that are basically sticking off, coming off of the edge of the root and going down. So a dice is technically a 3-dimensional object, length, width, and height all being the same. That first horizontal cut controlled for the height. The cut I just did controlled for the width. The last cut I'm going to do controls for the length. So what I'm going to do now is I'm cutting opposite of the direction that I just did with the cuts that were running from the root going away from it. So I have a root on my left. The root that I cut off is on my right. My knife is going north-south, and I find this to be a real satisfying sound here. That. You just work your way all the way through till you get to the end of the root, and then you throw away the little bit of trash that is the root ball. This is a much finer of a dice than you would ever get just using the last method I showed you, and it looks way cooler. And there are 3 ways that you can cut an onion.
Here at Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired, we provide resources and training to Utah residents who are blind or visually impaired to help them reach their employment and/or independent living goals. To learn more about our services and how we can help, please call us at 801-323-4343.